Fortunately, caring for a trombone is a relatively easy process. There's not a lot you have to do. You want to keep it clean. Maybe put it in warm water in the bathtub every 3 to 4 months or so, maybe more often if you like to be cleaner, or 6 months at the outside, I'd say. And you would take the slide section apart, and in the bathtub, of course, you'd be able to run water through it. I recommend using a gentle dish soap, and you put a few drops in there and a little bit of water to get it sudsy, and then you would use a snake, which is what this is. You see it's got scrubbies on the end, and you'd run it through there. And I'll go ahead and do that with the outer slide so you can see it's flexible and coated with plastic so that it doesn't scratch. And you can kind of feel when it gets down to the end. I'm going to go around that bow just a little bit just to make sure you get all the stuff out of there. And then again, if you were in the bathtub, you would run warm water through this until it's clear so there is no soap left in the instrument. And please don't use scalding hot water, because that will take the lacquer or the finish off of the instrument. You just want lukewarm water. And when you're done with that, what you can do to dry it out is use a cleaning rod. This is what usually comes with your instrument. You can see it's got a little hole in the end. And that's so you can take a piece of cloth. This is just an old bed sheet that I tore so that it's about that wide. You're going to run it through there. It's got to be good and long, so you can go about halfway, because what you're going to do is twirl it around the metal part so that all the metal is covered. And then, if you just run it through, then you can dry out what's inside there once you're done cleaning it. Now, this is very important. When you pull this back out, don't just grab the loop and pull, because if you do that, all of the material will get caught up down here. It'll bunch up and it'll get stuck. So when you're doing this, grab both the cloth and the metal. That way it won't get stuck. Okay, now I have this real fancy one that comes with this sheath, which you can take off and put it in the washing machine. It's pretty handy, and you just run that through and then again hang on to it and you can clean it out. Okay, now there are lots of lubricants for your trombone slide on the market. I like Slide-O-Mix. I'm not opposed to the others. Trombone is very popular. Super Slick is, I suppose, a little older, but I guess it still works. I would not recommend using face cream or furniture polish. Sometimes people like to do that. It's just not going to work, and it's not formulated for trombone slides. So for the Slide-O-Mix, you want to put a couple drops of the small bottle on there and then mix in dribbles of the large bottle, and when they mix together, that's when it gets really slippery. And then you'll need a spray bottle, a little bit of water, and then you can add water whenever you need it. So one more thing about the trombone slide, sometimes the cork where the spit valve is can get pretty gnarly. So if you have to replace that, you can buy a whole bag of these things online, and they come in various sizes. Just find the size that's just a little bit bigger than the cup where it goes, so that you can really force it in there so that it'll stay. I haven't really found any need to glue it in like some books tell you. As long as you get a cork that's the appropriate size, it should stay. Okay, so that's the trombone slide. The mouthpiece, obviously, you'll need a mouthpiece brush, and you just run this again into warm water and brush it out. This should be done more often than you're going to clean the whole instrument. If you want to get fancy with your mouthpiece, assuming you have a silver plated mouthpiece, you can take some silver polish and make it shiny. You just want a little bit on your rag, and you can shine this up like that. I don't recommend going inside the cup of the mouthpiece. I did that one time and it tastes kind of funny, and I'm not sure how healthy that is, so you can tell that's a little shinier. So that's kind of nice. If you want to do that, I would not use silver polish on a gold mouthpiece. It's only for silver. That may seem obvious, but there you go. Now for the bell section, once again, you can put this in the bathtub, but you have to be really careful because it's real easy to ding the bell up, you know, in an enclosed area like that. Depending on what kind of valve you have, there are different maintenance procedures. Generally speaking, I do not recommend that you take the valve apart unless there's something wrong, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, just get a repairman, because if you don't get it back together exactly right, it won't work. So be very careful about that. On this instrument, I have one of these axial flow valves, and you can see the black part, that's called neoprene. I've been meaning to exchange that with cork because I think the cork is a little softer and quieter. So you can do that if you'd like. Just get, again, a bag of corks and cut out the right size until you can put it in there. When you're cleaning the bell section, you can take the slides off. So push the valve down so that you don't form a vacuum in there. And that way you can take the slide all the way out and the main tuning slide. 2 hands, thumb on either side, and that will help you avoid, you know, getting it cocked one way or the other where it'll get stuck. So be very careful when you get up to the top here. Kind of work your way out so that you get all the slides taken out. Now you'll notice on a tuning slide that this part is obviously finished. It's got lacquer on it, and this part is not. And that's so that it'll slide in and out, and there's really no reason for it to be finished. If you've got a sticky slide, here's a trick that might help you. If you go back to your silver polish, or you can use Brasso or something like that, then you can shine up the unfinished portion of the slide, which in my experience makes it move a little bit better. So when you do this, be sure you don't get the silver polish on the lacquered part, because I don't think it's really meant to go there. You can see how that's getting a little more shiny. And I've found that when it's a little shinier, it'll move a little bit better in, you know, if it's a little sticky for you. When you go to put it back in, make sure you're using slide grease. Slide grease is very heavy. It's kind of like Vaseline, although I would not use Vaseline. You need to use products that are specifically designed for your instrument, and you want to put the slide grease on both sides. And then once again, when you go to put this in, make sure that you don't just force it. It will get stuck easily. So I'm going to line these up very carefully and just gently kind of wiggle back and forth until it catches, and that's somewhat smoother than it was before. So you can work it up and down, and then you can wipe off the excess. So just like the trombone slide, when you have the bell section in the bathtub, once again, make sure you're only using lukewarm water. If you use water that's too hot, then you'll take the lacquer right off, and you don't want to do that. You would use your snake through all the small tubes in the bathtub, and again, a little bit of soap from dish soap is good because it's very gentle. And when you're done with that, cup your hand and run the water through the tubing until it's clear, so you make sure you get all of the soap out. And then you can do this trick when you're done to swab out the inside of each of these tubes. And you should have a rag that you can, or a towel that you can just wipe everything off and get all the water out of there. And then once you're done with that, you can oil the valve. And I like to do this 2 ways. There's a spot right there where you can see where it moves. Just put a few drops there. And then what I do is another drop or 2 in here. You can even force it through. Make sure the valve gets lubricated. That can be done even when you're not cleaning the instrument, obviously. And I think that covers it.